Welcome to the Becoming a Know-It-All channel. Today's fun topic, potatoes.
Ah, yes, the potato. You've definitely come to the right place if you're curious about this humble tuber. Today, in our deep dive, we're really going to dig into its fascinating past.
Yeah, we'll explore its incredible journey across the globe and, well, obviously talk about all the delicious ways we get to eat it.
Exactly.
We've gathered quite a bit of info for you. I mean, from its super ancient beginnings right up to its starring role in, well, kitchens everywhere today. Plus, some facts that are genuinely surprising.
Our goal is really to give you the inside scoop, the kind of stuff that makes you look at a potato a bit differently next time.
Totally. Okay, so let's get into it. Where did it all begin? Because the history is, well, it's really old.
Seriously old. Our sources are pretty clear. Potatoes were first cultivated way, way back. We're talking between 8,000 and 5,000 BC.
Wow.
By the Inca people in the Andes region, modern-day Peru, basically.
9,000 BC, that's just mind-boggling.
It really is. And what's amazing is how central the potato was to Inca life. It wasn't just food.
Oh. Yeah.
Well, they valued it hugely. They used it for medicinal purposes. Some sources suggest treating injuries, maybe like a poultice.
A potato bandage? Seriously? That's kind of amazing.
Resourceful, right. And get this, they even used the time it took to cook a potato as a way to measure, well, actual time.
No way. Talk about really knowing your potatoes.
Exactly. And speaking of being clever, the Incas also figured out a brilliant way to preserve them. They made something called chunu.
Chunu. Okay, how did that work?
Well, essentially, they'd repeatedly freeze and thaw the potatoes, squeezing out the water. It was a natural freeze-drying process, really.
Ah, and what was the point of that?
It created this incredibly dense, nutrient-packed food source. And the best part, chunu could last for up to 10 years.
10 years. Wow.
Yeah. Imagine having that kind of insurance against crop failures. Pretty vital in those high-altitude conditions.
Absolutely crucial then. So, okay, they're thriving in the Andes. How do they get out to the rest of the world?
Right. So the next big step is the Spanish conquistadors. They run into potatoes in Peru around 1532,
Okay.
and they bring them back to Europe probably around 1536 or so.
So these explorers show up back in Spain with these lumpy things. What was the reaction? Did people just start boiling them up?
Not quite. No, there was a lot of suspicion, actually.
Really? Why?
Well, you have to remember, they kind of look like plants in the nightshade family, and some nightshades are poisonous, so people were understandably a bit wary.
Oh, okay. Makes sense.
Some people even thought they were, like, devil's apples or associated with witchcraft.
Witches' potatoes. That's quite the reputation to overcome. So how did they finally win people over?
It was slow, really gradual. You had key figures helping out, like Sir Walter Raleigh. He's credited with introducing them to Ireland in 1589.
Okay, Ireland gets potatoes.
And then there's King Frederick the Great of Prussia. This is a great story. In the 18th century, he really wanted his people to eat potatoes. Help with food supply, maybe lower bread prices.
So what did he do? Just issue a royal decree?
He was cleverer than that. He planted a royal potato field and had it heavily guarded.
Guarded? Why?
To make people curious. The thinking was, if the king is guarding these things so closely, they must be valuable. It made people want to, well, acquire some for their own gardens.
That's brilliant reverse psychology.
Totally worked. And then in France, you had the aristocracy trying to make them fashionable. King Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette supposedly wore potato blossoms.
Potato blossoms.
Yeah.
As, like, accessories.
Yep. Trying to make spuds chic. Can you imagine trying that today with, I don't know, kale flowers?
Right. A bold move. Okay, so Europe eventually comes around. What about North America? When do they show up here?
They started arriving in the early 1600s. We see mentions in the 1620s, places like Virginia, New Hampshire. Apparently, there was even a gift of potatoes from the governor of the Bahamas to the governor of Virginia.
A diplomatic potato exchange.
Yeah.
Nice. Was there the same suspicion here?
Yeah, somewhat. But then you get someone like Thomas Jefferson. He's often credited with giving potatoes a boost by serving French fries at a White House dinner.
French fries. So that was the key to America's heart.
It certainly didn't hurt. And then, of course, the huge wave of Irish immigrants really cemented the potatoes place. They already relied on it heavily.
Right, which unfortunately leads to that devastating Irish potato famine in the 1840s when disease wiped out the crop.
Exactly. A really tragic reminder of the dangers of monoculture, relying too heavily on one food source.
Such a terrible time.
Yeah.
So fast forward a bit. The potatoes we mostly eat today, Are they the same ones from back then?
Not exactly. The modern russet potato, the classic oblong, brown-skinned one that became really common in the late 1800s, it was specifically bred to be bigger, higher yielding.
Makes sense for feeding more people.
Mm-hmm. And now, well, they're basically everywhere, grown on every continent except Antarctica. The staple food for billions. Quite the journey from the Andes, isn't it?
It really is incredible. Okay, history lesson complete.
Yeah.
Now the fun part, what can you do with them? Our sources just kept saying how incredibly versatile they are.
Oh, versatile is almost an understatement, isn't it? I mean, just think. Make potatoes, you can load them up with anything. Butter, sour cream, cheese, chili.
Classic comfort food.
Mealy.
And mashed potatoes. Smooth, creamy, perfect.
Absolutely. Or roast potatoes, getting them really crispy on the outside, fluffy inside. Essential for a good roast dinner.
Oh, yeah. And French fries.
Mm.
We mentioned Jefferson, but they're just a global phenomenon now, aren't they? Deep fried, oven baked. Everyone loves fries.
You can't escape them. And there's potato salad, so many kinds. Cold, warm, mayo-based, vinegar-based.
Right. And potato skins. Loaded up with cheese and bacon. Perfect appetizer.
Definitely. Or if you want something a bit fancier, you've got gratins like dauphinoise potatoes. Thinly sliced, baked in cream and cheese.
Ooh, sounds decadent. What about dishes from other places?
Well, sources mention things like pierogi, those Eastern European dumplings, often filled with potato and cheese.
Love pierogi.
And hash browns or Swiss rusty grated potatoes fried until golden and crisp. Great breakfast food.
Mm-hmm. And they're great in soups and stews too, right? They add that lovely thickness of body, like in chowder.
Exactly. They really bulk things out. Oh, and the potato cakes or patties. You can make simple ones from leftovers or more elaborate fish cakes using mashed potato.
True. And stuffed potatoes, not just skins, but like whole baked potatoes filled with, well, anything. Pizza toppings, taco fillings.
The possibilities just keep going. There are fondant potatoes, that's a French thing, slow cooked in butter and stock until they're super tender.
Okay, now you're just making me hungry.
Sorry. And we can't forget dumplings like notia from Italy or cepelini from Lithuania. Seriously, you can do almost anything. Duchess potatoes, moussaka has potato layers, casseroles, even savory tarts.
Okay, point taken. Endless possibilities. I am definitely craving potatoes now. But before we raid the kitchen, let's shift to some of those fun facts we found.
Good idea. Let's start with chunu again, that Inca preservation method. 10-year shelf life. Just incredible.
Seriously impressive tech for its time. What else? Oh, and Marie Antoinette and the potato blossoms. We mentioned it, but it's just such a funny image.
It really is. Shows how things become fashionable, doesn't it? And this one's cool. Potatoes were the first vegetable grown in space.
In space? Really?
Yep. NASA experiment, 1995. They were testing how to feed astronauts on long missions.
A space potato? That's amazing. Any other earthbound trivia?
Well, apparently back in Shakespeare's time, they were sometimes called the apple of love. Sounds a bit more romantic than spud, doesn't it?
Apple of love. I like it.
And the artist Vincent van Gogh, he actually painted potatoes. Several still lifes featuring them.
Van Gogh painted potatoes. Huh. I guess they have a certain rustic charm.
Maybe. And we touched on the folk medicine uses the Incas, using them for injuries. There's also a tradition, I think Chinese, of putting potatoes in your socks to help with a cold.
Potatoes in your socks. Okay, that's a new one. Probably not scientifically proven, but interesting bit of folklore.
Definitely folklore. More practically, though, they're incredibly efficient to grow. 1 acre of potatoes can feed about 10 people. That's way more efficient than wheat or oats.
Wow, that's a huge difference. Really important for food security.
Absolutely. And speaking of large yields, the biggest potato ever recorded from a single plant apparently weighed 370 pounds.
370 pounds from one plant.
Yep, back in 1974 in England. Imagine digging that up.
That's not a potato, that's a boulder.
Okay.
What about the plant itself? Any interesting biology?
Oh, yeah. Get this. Potatoes belong to the same plant family as tobacco, and tomatoes, and peppers. The Solanaceae family.
Wait, potatoes and tobacco are related? Seriously, mind blown.
Yep. But interestingly, they are not related to sweet potatoes. That's a common mix-up.
Oh, so sweet potatoes aren't potatoes.
Nope. Sweet potatoes are actually swollen roots, and they belong to the morning glory family. Potatoes, technically, are tubers, which are swollen underground stems.
Okay, tuber, not root. Got it. Good distinction.
And you know the flowers you sometimes see on potato plants? They're actually a good sign. They usually mean tubers are forming underneath. And the flower color can sometimes even tell you what kind of potato it is, like red flowers for red potatoes.
Huh. Handy gardening tip. And they're pretty tough plants, right?
Very tough. They can grow at really high altitudes, like up to 4,000 meters in the Andes, and they're generally quite easy to grow, need less water and fertilizer than some other big crops.
Impressive.
Oh, and one last cool thing, there's a grafted plant called a tomtato, or potato tom,
Mm.
that grows both tomatoes above ground and potatoes below ground on the same plant.
What? That's like science fiction.
Sure, well, clever grafting. So, yeah, that's quite a bit about potatoes.
It really is. We've gone from ancient Peru to outer space, basically. Covered the history, the cooking, the weird facts.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a proper deep dive.
Absolutely. From, that Andean staple to a global superstar, and just so many ways to cook them, plus all those little surprising bits of trivia we dug up.
Definitely makes you appreciate the humble spud a bit more.
Yeah.
So, thinking about everything we've discussed, if you wanted to really stump a potato expert or just ask some smart questions, what would you ask? Based on our dive, here are 5 we came up with.
Okay, let's hear them.
1. What specific adaptations actually allowed potatoes to thrive way up high in the Andes?
Good one. Altitude challenges.
2. We know about chunu, but were there other clever storage or preservation methods early civilizations used for potatoes?
Ooh, interesting. Beyond the freeze drying. Yeah.
3. Given how suspicious Europeans were initially, what were the most effective arguments or maybe demonstrations that finally convinced people to eat them?
The tipping point question. I like it.
4. Apparently there are thousands of potato varieties. So what are some of the most unique or historically important types that we just don't see much today?
Lost potatoes. Fascinating.
And 5. Looking ahead, what's some of the cutting-edge research happening in potato science? Things that could help with food security or maybe even boost their nutritional value.
Future spuds. Yeah, those are really solid questions. Gets you thinking beyond just the basics.
Right. They cover history, culture, science, the whole potato package.
Definitely. Anyone seriously into potatoes would find those interesting to tackle.
Well, that just about wraps up our deep dive into the amazing world of potatoes. We hope you learned something new, maybe got some dinner inspiration.
Hope so. It's been fun exploring the story of the spud.
Thank you for becoming a know-it-all with us.